Frederick Douglass, after he came out of the slavery, what did he do? He started to orate. Orate in the sense he started to give the speech, and he was employed as an agent. I got to know from other people, but if you ask me, I really don't know. I don't know anything about my parents. The people speaking there, he got to know that the master himself is his father. It might be true or it may not be true. Hello everyone, I'm Babita Tamaya, lecturer, Department of English, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. In my previous session, I had discussed about the poem The Farmer's Wife. In my today's session, I'll be discussing about the chapter Frederick Douglass. If you want to know about this chapter, you have to know about the American history. So let me take you all back to American history and slave trade. If you don't know what is slave trade, or if you don't know how white people dominated the black slave people, this chapter wouldn't be better understood. Who is Frederick Douglass? Yes, he is so prominent in American black slave trade system. So let's know about Frederick Douglass. He is Frederick Douglass. In his autobiography, he writes his age is not confirmed. He is not sure about his date of birth. He is not sure where was he born. But he could give the reader an approximate outline of his life and life history through excerpts. What do you mean by excerpt? Excerpt is a piece of information taken from the entire biography or autobiography. In this chapter, Frederick Douglass is not sure about his age and the date of birth also. And why Frederick Douglass write about himself, about his people, about his struggle, about his community, and about his black slave people. To know this, let's begin the session. So before I begin with the session, there is something known as pre-reading activity. Have you heard about Abraham Lincoln and the horrors of the slave trade in the United States of America? Who is Abraham Lincoln here? Abraham Lincoln is the 16th President of United States of America, and he is the first one to sign the Emancipation Proclamation Act. What do you know about the following historic events? The Emancipation Proclamation issued in 1863 by the President Abraham Lincoln, freeing black slaves. So, Abraham Lincoln was the first person who signed the Emancipation Proclamation Act in the year 1863. It means to say that the black people were free. Until then, they were under the control of the white people. So after Abraham Lincoln, they were made free. The civil rights movement led by Martin Luther King Jr. So Martin, not only Abraham Lincoln, how did Frederick Douglass triggered back to the English people here? After he heard the speech of Martin Luther, Frederick Douglass triggered back to the white people, and they were let free at last. They fought, how we fought for this freedom, in the same way they also fought for their slavery to come out of that slavery. So if you want to know more about this, you just have to Google it out. Go through with the Abraham and the Martin Luther, about the King Martin Luther, and there is a movie known as Mercy. Watch this movie so that you will get the clear picture about Martin Luther as well as the slave people also. Moving further, pretext. Frederick Douglass was born in slavery as Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey near Easton in Talbot County, Maryland. He was not sure of the exact year of his birth, but he knew that it was 1817 or 1818. As I told before itself, Frederick Douglass never knew about his age or the year of birth. And here Frederick Douglass was born in slavery. He was born in slavery and his name was Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. What was Frederick Douglass' name? Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. It's a 1 mark question. He was born in Maryland and he is not sure about the exact year and the age also. As a young boy, he was sent to Baltimore to be a house servant where he learned to read and write with the assistance of his master's wife. So at the very young age, instead of going to the school where he was sent to be a house servant. He was sent to Baltimore, and what was the role played there? He worked as a servant in one of the house, and there he was taught, by the assistance, he was taught to read and write. In 1838, he escaped from slavery and went to New York City, where he married Anne Murray, a free colored woman whom he had met in Baltimore. Soon thereafter, he changed his name to Frederick Douglass. So what happens here? He was sent to Baltimore as a servant. Later on, he escaped. That is in the year 1838. He escaped from the slavery and he went to the New York City, where he got married to Anne Murray, a free colored lady or a woman whom he met in Baltimore. Later, he changed his name from Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey to Frederick Douglass. Again, Anne Murray and Frederick Douglass is again a one-mark question. In 1841, he addressed the convention of the Massachusetts Anti-Slavery Society in Nantucket and so greatly impressed the group that they immediately employed him as an agent. So, Frederick Douglass, after he came out of the slavery, what did he do? He started to orate. Orate in the sense he started to give the speech, and he was employed as an agent. Later, he was employed as an agent. He was such an impressive orator that numerous persons doubted if he had ever been a slave. So he wrote Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. When he started to orate, he wrote about himself, that is the Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. During the Civil War, he assisted in the recruiting of colored men for the 54th and the 55th Massachusetts regiments and consistently argued for the emancipation of slaves. As I told, emancipation, that is Abraham Lincoln, who signed the act in 1863, where the white people was freed from everything. Ignorant masters. I was born in Tuckahoe near Hillsborough and about 12 miles from Easton in Talbot County, Maryland. I have no accurate knowledge of my age, never having seen an authentic record containing it. So where was he born? I is Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was born in Tuckahoe, and he also says that he never know about the accurate age or the year of birth. See, I have no accurate knowledge. He says that I don't have any knowledge about my birth. I don't know who has given me the birth, who are my parents, who is my father, who is my mother, where I was born. He doesn't have any knowledge about his birth. And he also says that there is no authentic record containing it. There is no record saying that to see when I was born, which year, when was the date. We don't have anything. So now if I ask you when you were born and which year you were born, you have the answer for all the questions because there is a record kept by your parents. But here, Frederick Douglass, being a black slave or the black people, they doesn't maintain any records because it is the rules and regulations that they have to follow. So here, the white masters, there are masters, that is the white masters are there. Under the white masters, there will be 20 or 30 black slaves under their control. Whatever the rules, whatever they say, they have to follow the same thing. They cannot go against the white people. Many a times he tried to get some answer from the white people, but they never told when he was born. By far the larger part of the slaves known as little of their ages as horses know of theirs. And it is the wish of most masters within my knowledge to keep their slaves thus ignorant. I don't remember to have ever met a slave who could tell of his birthday. So he says, it is only for the black people, only for the black slaves. If I ask any of the white child to tell his birthday or the year of birth, they could tell it because they have maintained the record. But when it comes to the black people, we don't have anything. And even the masters are so ignorant to tell about our birth. Even they also never revealed it. And it is the wish of most masters within my knowledge. It is the wish. Here the masters never wish to tell about their birth. They were ignorant also. I do not remember to have ever met. He says, it is not only with me. There are many black slaves here, many black kids. And if I go and ask them, even I get the same kind of a reply. No black children know about their year of birth or their age, because they are under the control or they are taken care by the white people, and they are dominating towards the black slaves. They seldom come near to it than planting time, harvest time, cherry time, spring time, or fall time. It means to say that they have each and so for the planting, they have a time that is for sowing the seed. Cherry time, spring time, summer season, winter season. For all these things, there are some seasons, some time. They come during that time and they goes back and again they'll come. They know when to come, what is their time, what is their season. But here, we don't have so much knowledge to say about our birth year. He says, we don't have any record. Even the masters also are so ignorant to tell about us. The white children could tell their ages. I could not tell why I ought to be deprived of the master concerning it, was not allowed to make any enquiries of my master concerning it. See here, the white children can tell their ages. They know their birth of year, but not the black slaves or the black people. And he says that I ought to be, and Frederick Douglass says that he ought to be deprived from the masters concerning about their documents or the authentic record. To make inquiries of my master concerning it. He tried to collect the information from his master. He tried to inquire from his master, but he did not get any answer from his master's side. He deemed all such inquiries on the part of a slave improper and impertinent and evidence of a restless spirit. The nearest estimate I can give makes me now between 27 and 28 years of age. He says that from the other people I got to know I was born in 1817 or 1818, in between these 2 years. But he is not sure. If I go with those years, now I might be 27 or 28 years of age. He says, but he also says that he is not sure about it. I come to this from hearing my master say something during 1835. I was about 17 years old. How he is saying that he is 27 or 28 years. He got to know that the master saying, he heard the master speaking about it, and he says that is during 1835, he was about 17 years of age. He heard from his masters, even he is not sure. He don't even know about his parents to just go and question when he was born. He doesn't know anything about his childhood. So now let's see about his childhood. My mother was named Harriet Bailey. She was the daughter of Isaac and Betsy Bailey, both colored and dark, white. So here, my mother, Frederick Douglass' mother is Harriet Bailey. Again, 1 mark question. And she was the daughter of Isaac and Betsy Bailey, both colored and dark complexion. Here, Isaac and Betsy Bailey are the grandparents of Frederick Douglass. The parents of Harriet Bailey are quite darker. Quite darker in the sense they are neither white, neither dark. Maybe in between whitish in color, not completely whitish, not dark, nor white. My mother was of a darker complexion than either my grandmother or grandfather. So here what he says in the beginning, he says that my grandparents were neither dark, neither white. They were in between complexion. But my mother were even darker than my grandparents. Maybe the grandmother or the grandfather. My mother was even more darker than my grandparents. My father was a white man. He was admitted to be such by all I ever heard speak of my parentage. So here, his father is white man. Now you might be questioning, I'm talking about the black slave here. I told his mother is a black slave, that is a darkest woman. And how come his father is a white man? Here, what the white man or the masters do in the sense, they make use of the black woman for their flesh and bone. The white man will be having an illegal relationship with the black woman. Here, what they make use here in the sense, the white people or the masters, they'll just make use of the black women or the black slaves for their own pleasure and happiness. He was admitted to be such by all I ever heard speak about my parentage. I have heard about it by mother or my grandparents or from someone else I got to know, but I really don't know about my childhood as well as my parentage. The opinion was also whispered that my master was my father. So he got to know, the people around there were speaking among themselves, saying that his master was his father. As I told, the masters will be having 20 or 30 people under their control. Maybe the one who is his master right now, who is taking care of Frederick Douglass, maybe that master, he himself is his father. That is what the people speak. But of the correctness of this opinion, I know nothing. The means of knowing was withheld from me. I got to know from other people, but if you ask me, I really don't know. I don't know anything about my parents, about his mother. My mother and I were separated when I was but an infant, before I knew her as my mother. So what happens here in the sense, the baby and the mother was separated when I was an infant. When it is small itself, the baby and the mother are separated. Why they are separated, he don't know what is the reason. But in fact, he knows it, but he don't want to tell. But what is the fact here? They separate the baby from the mother when the baby is infant only. Why so? Because that is the custom they follow in that village. Before I knew her as my mother, before the child comes to know or before the child gets to know that it is his mother or her mother, the baby and the mother are separated. It is the common custom in the part of Maryland. As I told, it is the custom of the Maryland, common custom. It is not only there, each and every black woman and the kids will be separated in the infant only, because it is the custom of the Maryland, from which I ran away to part children from their mothers at the very early age. In the same way, even I was separated from my mother in a very early age. Frequently, before the child has reached its 12th month, its mother is taken from it and hired out on some farm a considerable distance off, and the child is placed under the care of an old woman too old for field labor. What they did here? Frequently, before the child has reached its 12th month, not even a year. When the baby has reached the 12th month, it is not an year also. The baby is taken away from the mother. So the mother is separated from the baby when the baby is 12th month itself. Not even a year is completed. When it is 12th month, mother and the baby are separated. And what is the work mother has to do? After separating the baby from the mother is hired. She is hired for some farm work which is far away from the distance. And she is separated. She has to go back to the field work. She has to go back to the farm and she has to continue with the work. But who will take care of the baby here? The baby will be taken care by an old woman. Old in the sense, too very old, where she cannot do any field work or the field labor. She cannot be a field labor. Only the thing she can take care of the newborn babies. Other than that, she cannot do any work because she is too very old. For what the separation is done, I do not know, unless it to be to hinder the development of the child's affection towards his mother. So if you ask me why this separation is done, that is separating the baby from the mother, I really don't have an answer for this. I really don't know why they are going to separate, but they say that it is the custom followed in Maryland. And he also first he says that he doesn't know, and then later he also says that it is the development of the child's affection towards his mother. Once she gives birth, and what happens here, the mother and the child will be having the love and affections. When the mother starts to show the love and the affections to the child, and the child will also get to know that it is his mother. So here the white people does not want the black child to get know about his mother, so they are separated. For example, you might have seen your cousins or the friend's baby. So when they have given birth, it will be in someone's hand, and when it comes back to the mother, you can see the expression and the happiness in their face. So here it feels the same thing, but they didn't want to have any kind of affection, so they were separated from the white people. And to blunt and destroy the natural affection of the mother for the child. So they blunt to destroy, they try to destroy the affection, the natural affection of the mother and the child. This is the inevitable result. So what is the result here? I am the result for it. Because I am separated from my mother, I don't know how is she, and I don't even know about my birth date. I was separated from my mother from when I was 12 months itself. This is inevitable. Can't believe it. I never saw my mother to know her as such more than 4 or 5 times in my life. So has he seen his mother? Yes, he has seen his mother. How many times? 4 or 5 times in his life. He has seen his mother only for 4 to 5 times, and even he couldn't recognize or he couldn't identify her face because he has seen only 4 to 5 times. But how? And each of these times was very short in duration at night. He had seen his mother 4 to 5 times, but when and where? He had seen her only during night, that too for a very short period. She was hired by a Mr. Stewart who lived about 12 miles from my home. She made her journey to see me in the night, traveling the whole distance on foot after the performance of her day's work. So when she was coming to see her baby, that is during night. And she was hired. She was working under Mr. Stewart, which was 12 miles away from his home. It is not the kilometers. It is 12 miles away from Maryland, and she was hired by Mr. Stewart. And she has to walk the 12 miles after she finishes her farm work or the field work, and late night she has to walk 12 miles to see her baby, that too during night. She was a field hand. She was working in the field. She was a field laborer, and she has to walk 12 miles to see her baby, and she has to get back again to the work before the sun rises. Before the sun rises, if she is not there in the field, then she will be penalized with whipping. What is whipping? Hitting in a stake, chati. In that stake they used to hit if she is not back to the work before sunrise. Unless a slave has special permission from his or her master to the contrary, a permission which they seldom get. What he also says in the sense, if a slave woman or the slave child gets the permission from the master, it is seldomly they get. Seldom in the sense very rarely, in the sense very rarely they get the permission from their masters to meet the child, and they can come back to the work later. Very rarely they give the permission. And one that gives him that, this gives the proud name of being a kind master. If the master gives the permission, and that master is known as a kind master. Only very rarely they give the permission, and if he gives the permission, the master will be known as a kind master, or else they are too very cruel to the black people or the black women. They want the pleasure and the happiness from the black people or the black women, but they dominate on them. I do not recollect of every seeing my mother by the light of day. She was with me in the night. So why does he say that? I do not recollect of ever seeing my mother the light of the day. As I told, she is the daughter of Isaac and Betsy Bailey, and they both are in darker complexion, not too white, not too dark. But here, Harriet Bailey is even more darker than her parents. And he says that I have seen my mother only during the night. She comes to meet me during night, and I have met her for 4 to 5 times in that night, because she is into a darker complexion, and during the night when she comes, I couldn't see her face properly. He is not insulting the color here. He just says that at night you can see the people, the dark people walking, and you can't even recognize there is someone walking over there, because they are too very dark. He says, my mother has a darker complexion and she comes to meet me late, that is after finishing her work, and I couldn't even see her face properly. She was with me in the night. She was staying with Frederick Douglass at night. She would lie down with me and get me to sleep, but long before I waked, she was gone. So what did she do? She'll come to visit the baby or Frederick Douglass. She lie down, she sleeps with him and make Frederick Douglass also sleep. She makes Frederick Douglass to sleep, and next to Frederick Douglass, she will also lie down for some time. Before he wakes up, his mother is gone back to the work. Very little communication ever took place between us. He also says very little communication took place between Frederick Douglass and his mother, because she comes late during night and she goes before the sun rises. So how communication can happen between the mother and the son? It is really not. They had very little communication. They had little affection. Not too very love, not too very affection. Because they were separated when the baby was 12th month. That soon ended with what little we could have while she lived, and with it her hardships and suffering. Death would ended. What do you mean by death would ended? Death ended his mother. His mother was no more. She was dead after that. She died when I was about 7 years old on one of my master's farm near Lee's Mill. She was dead when he was 7 years old. And let's see what was the pain after his mother was dead. Was Frederick Douglass allowed to see his mother, to do his funeral? Let's see next. I was not allowed to be present during her illness, at her death or burial. So he says he was not allowed to present during her illness, at her death or burial. He was not allowed to see his mother when she was dead. So when our beloved dies, what we do? We'll just hurry to see their face for the last time. But here, the child was not given such opportunity. How pain he had in his life, where he couldn't see his mother for the last time also. And not even the other works where he should perform, that also was not given to him. She was gone long back before I knew everything about it. So before I know about my life, my date of birth, my date of year, she was no more. She kept everything secret and she is not there now. Never having enjoyed to any considerable extent her soothing presence, her tender and watchful care, I received the tidings of her death with much the same emotions I should have probably felt at the death of a stranger. He says that what he says here in the sense, he did not have so much of feeling when he lost his mother, because they had very little communication and there was no affection and no love between the mother and the son here. For example, when you're on the way to your work or for the college or for the school, If you see an accident over there and the person who was riding the bike, he might have dead. So by looking into that person, we will feel so sad. We look at the body, we'll see the body and we will feel sad for ourselves and just we will walk out. Sometimes the tear might come out of our eyes. He says the same thing for his mother. Because I did not have so much of affection, so much of conversation between my mother. When my mother was dead, I felt as if the stranger is dead, whom I don't know at all, whom I don't know anything much about them. See the feelings and the pain he is writing in his book. The next, unsolved mystery. Called thus suddenly away, she left me without the slightest intimation of who my father was. So Frederick Douglass says, my mother, she is dead. She is no more now. But before she dies, she didn't even give me an intimation about my father, who my father was. She did not tell me anything about that. The whisper that my master was my father may or may not be true and true or false. Just the whisper. The people speaking there, he got to know that the master himself is his father. It might be true or it may not be true. It is of but little consequence to my purpose, whilst the fact remains in all its glaring odiousness that slaveholders have ordained and by law established that the children of slave women shall in all cases follow the condition of their mothers, and this is done too obviously to administer to their own lust and make a gratification of their wicked desires profitable as well as pleasurable. For by this cunning arrangement, the slaveholder, in cases not a few, sustains to his slaves the double relation of master and father. The Frederick Douglass, he lost his mother, but no information. He did not get any kind of information from his mother saying who was his father. The people were talking that the master, he himself is a father. It might be true or it may not be true. But however, the mother was kept in dark. Even he also has to continue the same path. The white people are dominating here. But what the white people do here? They get married. They marry the white man and they have an illegal relationship with the black woman, and for the happiness and the pleasure, they want the black women. As I told, administer to their own lust. Lust is for their happiness. The white man has an illegal affair with the black woman, and whatever the pleasure, he wants the pleasure of flesh and her bone. He make use of that. Then he make her work like a slave in the field. For this cunning arrangement, the slaveholder, in cases not a few, sustains to his slaves the double relationship of master and father. He's playing the double relationship as master as well as a father. Frederick Douglass says that he is acting as my master as well as my father. There is a double relationship. I know of such cases, and it is worthy of remark that such slaves invariably suffer greater hardship and have more to contend with than others. He says, even I know about such cases. He knows about such cases also. They are, in the first place, a constant offense to their mistress. Whose mistress here? Mistress is the white woman. She is ever disposed to find fault with them. They can seldom do anything to please her. She is never better pleased than when she sees them under the lash. Here, what does white woman do here? The white woman is very happy when she sees the black woman is whipping. When the black woman is whipping or the black slave woman is whipping, getting the whipping from the white men, here the mistress, the white lady, will be very happy to see that. Especially when she suspects her husband of showing to his mulatto children. Mulatto, white father and a dark mother. which he withholds from his black slaves. And she also suspects, expects her husband hitting the black child, that is the mulatto child, where he had an illegal affair. So from that illegal affair, she got a baby, and that baby will be hit by the own father only to please the white women. The master is frequently compelled to sell this class of his slaves out of deference to the feelings of his white wife. What the white man do here in the sense, he tries to sell the black women as well as the kids. Why does they do that? Out of the deference to the feelings of his white wife. Only for the difference, there should be some difference between the white women and the black women, only for that, and she'll be very happy to see that also. So they sell the women and the kids. He's selling his own child to someone else. And cruel as the deed may strike anyone to be, or a man to sell his own children to human fleshmongers. So it is not so very easy to sell your own child to the flesh mongers. But here the white men are so very cruel that they are selling their own children to the flesh mongers. It is often the dictate of humanity for him to do so. For unless he does this, he must not only whip them himself, but must stand by and see one white son tie up his brother of but few shades darker complexion than himself. So it is not only selling the children here. Here the white man is married. He is married to a white woman, having an affair with a black woman. Here the white woman is having a child and the black woman is also having a child. So what the white woman's child do here in the sense, black woman's child is tied to a tree or a branch there that is little bit up, and the white child is hitting his own brother. So why it happens? Why does they do that? And ply to gory lust to hit his naked back. So what does he do? He tie him to the branch, and that is the brother, white man's or white woman's wife, son, tie the black woman's son to a branch, and naked back, he is standing towards back, and without any clothes, he starts to whip him. And if he lips one word of disapproval, it is set down to his parental partiality and only makes a bad matter worse, both for himself and the slave whom he would protect and defend. So when he starts whipping, if he says it's paining, it's really paining a lot, and the whip will be too much, and no one will come to stop also, because it will be an offense. The white woman might go against her husband. How can you come and protect the black, that is the black woman's son? So no one will come to help there. I have had two masters. Who is I here? I is Frederick Douglass. He says that he had two masters. My first master's name was Anthony. So keep it in mind. It is 1 mark question. First master's name was Anthony. I do not remember his first name. He says, I know my master's name as Anthony, but I don't remember his first name. Generally called Captain Anthony, and Anthony is called as Captain Anthony. A title which I presume he acquired by sailing a craft on the Chesapeake Bay. He was not considered a rich slaveholder. He owned 2 or 3 farms and about 30 slaves. His farms and slaves were under the care of an overseer. So here, this master, that is Master Anthony, he had owned 3 farms and he had 30 slaves who was working under him, and he had an overseer also. Overseer who take care of each and everything. So what Mr. Anthony and Master Anthony had? 3 farms, he had 30 slaves, and he had an overseer. Now who is this overseer here? The overseer's name was Plumber. Mr. Plumber was a miserable drunkard. So his first master is Master Anthony and the second master is Mr. Plumber. Don't get confused here. Master Anthony was named as the Captain Anthony and he had 3 farms, 30 slaves and an overseer. And that overseer is Mr. Plumber, and Mr. Plumber is a drunkard, a profane seafarer and a savage monster. He is a savage monster also. He also went armed with a cowskin and a heavy cudgel. Even this Master Plumber is more worse than Master Anthony. Every time he would be armed with cowskin and heavy cudgel. I have known him to cut and slash the woman's head so horribly that even Master would be enraged at his cruelty and would threaten to whip him if he did not mind himself. What was the character? What kind of a man he was? What kind of a man Master Plumber was? He was a psychopath. So here he knew what he used to do in the sense he used to cut and slash the woman's head. Not only that, he used to hit the women very badly, and the master, that is Master Anthony, if he goes and tries to stop him, even he would threaten him to whip. Master Plumber would threaten Master Anthony to whip himself. Master, however, was not a humane slaveholder. Even the master was not a humane slaveholder. It required extraordinary barbarity on the part of an overseer to affect him. He was a cruel man, hardened by a long life of slaveholding. He would at times seem to take great pleasure in whipping a slave. So here, Master Plumber, he used to take more pleasure by hitting the black slave people. I often been awakened at the dawn of day by the most heart-rending shrieks of an own aunt of mine, whom he used to tie up to a joist and whip upon her naked back till she was literally covered with blood. So he's just saying about his own aunt. What did Master Plumber do to his aunt? His own aunt was tied to a joist and he whipped her at her naked back until she was literally covered with blood. So once he starts hitting, you can see the cuts. So where he used to hit again, on the cuts itself where the blood starts oozing. He gets more pleasure when he sees that. No words, no tears, no prayers from his gory victim. So when he is hitting, there should be no words, no prayers and no tears. If you say it's really paining a lot, please don't hit me, then he hits more. And if he finds you with the tears, again he will hit a lot. And there is no words also. Seemed to move his iron heart from his bloody purpose. So this Master Plumber is a stone-hearted person. After seeing the woman suffering so much, he is not at all ready to leave her. The louder she screamed, the harder he whipped. If she screamed louder, he used to hit harder. And where the blood ran fastest, there he whipped longest. Where he sees the blood oozing out, he used to hit for that place itself. He would whip her to make her scream and whip her to make her hush. Why? If she screams, what he can do? He again can hit, and not until overcome by fatigue would he ceases to swing the blood-clotted cowskin. It was most terrible spectacle. So where the blood is clotted, he used to hit to that place only. He is such a psychopath. From my earliest recollection, I did the entertainment of a deep conviction that slavery would not always be able to hold me with its foul embrace. And in the darkest hours of my career in slavery, this living word of faith and spirit of hope departed not from me but remained like ministering angels to cheer me through the gloom. This good spirit was from God, and to him I offer thanksgiving and praise. So here, after seeing all this, he just tried to come out of the slavery, and for this, who has supported the God has supported him. So at last he says, I never until the end I couldn't know who my father was, and my mother also died early where I was separated from my mother. There was no love, no affection, and there was no conversation between me and my mother. So after seeing all this, I just ran out of slavery and married Anne Murray, and he went back to Baltimore. And now he thanks for the God because he himself could come out of the slavery, and by listening to the speak of Martin Luther, he triggered back towards the white people. That's about the chapter Frederick Douglass. In my next session, I'll be discussing about an old woman. Until then, have a good day. Thank you.